ahead and get started so the folks that work here at the plant board can actually go home tonight. Can you not hear? Louder, louder, louder. Are we good? Okay. All right, we're ready to go. I'm Harry Carver. I am chair of the coordinators of Together Frankfort. This group got together about 8 years ago with the hopes of making sure that we were able to keep folks here in Frankfort informed on issues that were important to them, as well as, first and foremost, making sure everybody was registered to vote. Over the past few years, we've partnered with others to have forums, town halls. We do our annual Earth Day celebration, which is coming up here on the 19th of April. And this year, again, we're going to do it on the beautiful grounds of the Orlando Brown House. So make sure you mark your calendars and join us for that. Over a year ago, we launched our Civics 101 forum. We felt that there was a lot of need just to cover some, basic things about how our government, particularly started with local government, how things function here. So, so we would have a better understanding. We started with talking about actually the plant board when there were certain legislators that were trying to privatize the plant board and thought that was a good idea. So we had launched our forums with that. We've covered topics of how local governments are organized, how our local governments are financed. Had a great program last fall on housing and explained our housing gaps and how that all is playing out. Before I start into tonight's thing, I do want to say that Together Frankfort is a membership organization, so if you haven't joined, feel free to join. Our dues are only $20 a year. It's affordable. And but when you do sign in and put your, maybe check on the way out, make sure that you spell your email address very clearly so that when somebody types it in, we can actually get it right, because if it's not right, we're not going to find you. So just keep that in mind. Tonight's forum is a result of a lot of conversations that were going on, a lot of angst that people have, and hand wringing, and what is it that we're going to do next. With what's going on in Washington, people are rightly nervous and upset and really don't know what to do and how to respond. So we thought the best thing that we could do is put together a panel of folks that could talk a little bit about logical ways for us to respond to what is going on in Washington. So I'm going to let folks, we're going to go in order, but I'm going to go ahead and introduce everybody that is going to be speaking here tonight. We have Heather Ayer with the ACLU, Martha Ward Hendren with Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, Carlos Ramos from 5051, our own Barbara Hadley Smith is going to be speaking on behalf of Indivisible, and then Laura Vest, who is a counselor, is going to tell us all how we can survive this without falling into deep despair. So I'm going to let, Heather's going to kick it off, and she's going to start. And so if you all, I don't know, I'll let each individual speaker handle how they want to do questions. And so we'll just play it by ear, if that's okay with everybody.
Just like an introduction?
Yeah, just.
Okay, cool. Can everybody hear me? Okay, I feel like a legislator, because this is the type of microphones they use down at the Capitol. And they always forget to turn them on, so. They're like, look at the green light. Okay, my name is Heather Ayer. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the campaign coordinator at the ACLU of Kentucky. That's the American Civil Liberties Union. We are a nonpartisan, nonprofit C3 and C4 organization. You probably, primarily associate the ACLU with legal cases, with a lot of litigation. People are like, oh, are you an attorney? I am not an attorney. A lot of you probably know that my dad is an attorney, so I did not go to law school. But prior to working at the ACLU, I got started in organizing on political campaigns. I was a field organizer for Franklin County for Amy McGrath's 2018 campaign. That's how I got to know a lot of you all here. I either knocked on your door or gave you a nice little cold call, and then became what I like to think of as friends. So it's great to see so many people that I got to meet in 2018 here tonight. I then moved on to a couple other campaigns and ended up at the ACLU of Kentucky in 2020. That was right after Governor Beshear signed his executive order restoring voting rights to people with felonies in their past. That affected about 175,000 Kentuckians at the time, but While that was a wonderful executive order, there was no way of letting everyone know that they were able to register to vote. So we worked in coalition with other organizations to try to let as many people who were affected by that know. So we were able to contact quite a few of those Kentuckians. They voted, and we're still working on that to this day. But our issue areas it's like whatever issue you can think of, we probably have an opinion on it. We work on reproductive freedom. We work on LGBTQIA issues. We work on immigration issues as they come up. Freedom of speech, banned books. Just there's a lot that we can find ways to be involved in different things. So we're based in Louisville, but we are a statewide organization. So we have a communications team, advocacy team, which I'm a part of. We have a legal team, a development team, which they do all the fundraising. So, if you want to donate, you can do that online. And then we have our executive director and deputy director. So, I'm really happy to be here. Happy to answer any questions. I don't know, Barbara, how you want to do this, but...
What are you involved in right now in relation to the administration?
In relation to Donald Trump?
Yeah.
So we do have a national ACLU, and each state has its own ACLU affiliate, except for like North and South Dakota. They kind of get smushed together. But we primarily work on things related to Kentucky specifically, and leave the national stuff up to our national organization. There's an executive director, Anthony Romero, and they have a whole legal team, and they're constantly monitoring, what's going on. Prior to even Election Day, the National ACLU organization came up with what would quite a few documents that you can find on their website on what would happen in the case of a President Harris and what would happen in the case of a second round of President Trump. They prepared for both scenarios because the ACLU is nonpartisan, so it doesn't matter who is president. If they do something that we view as going against our civil rights and liberties, then they will sue. The ACLU did sue the Biden administration. We're nonpartisan. But I know already the ACLU has sued multiple times the Trump administration this go around. So a lot of things relating to the anti-trans executive orders that Trump has, signed, all of the horrible immigration executive orders he's signed, the National ACLU has sued over. But at the ACLU of Kentucky, we really do focus on issues affecting Kentuckians and the Kentucky Constitution.
Are you doing any of that in relation to immigration or reproductive rights right now?
So we do currently have a legal case. We found a Jane Doe who she was pregnant, did not want to be pregnant, and as you all know, there's an abortion ban here in Kentucky. Back in 2022, we worked to help defeat the anti-abortion constitutional amendment, which obviously did not restore abortion access, but it left a legal path forward to restore abortion access. Our staff attorney at the time, Heather Getnerick, argued in front of the Kentucky Supreme Court, and they came back a few months later saying that we did not have standing, that in an unprecedented ruling, they said that that doctors could not bring cases on behalf of their patients. So it was usually the ACLU and EMW, the women's clinic, the abortion clinic in Louisville, suing the state of Kentucky, but we were not allowed to do that anymore. So we had to find a Kentuckian who was pregnant, who did not want to be pregnant. And it took us a couple of years to find someone, and we did, and our legal team filed as soon as we were able to find that person. So there's no update to that yet. It takes a long time to make its way through everything. And again, I'm not an attorney, so I don't know all of the legal jargon and protocols with that. And then I don't know if I don't think we currently have a case. as it relates to any sort of immigration policy in the state, but our legal team does track everything that's going on and is ready to act if something does come up. So, yeah.
Why don't we hold questions until after each of you get to say something?
Hi, I am Martha Ward Hendren, and from Connecting for the Commonwealth. I'm in the Shelby County chapter, and I'm gonna copy off ACLU's paper a little bit. We're on a lot of the same pages. We're also a three-headed organization. We're a 501c3, a C4, and we try to keep them separate. We're also a power pack. We do endorse candidates on occasion, but we keep that separate. I swear. But it's Connecting for the Commonwealth, so obviously we're more state focused, but not exclusively. I did, as a KFTC person, campaign for Kamala, but we are very member led. I'm a volunteer. I got involved probably 2020-ish. The first time we had bad stuff happen in the White House, and you'd feel. People talk about depression. I think it's more anxiety for me. I just feel this horror, and I'm not even on the top of the list of, favorite people to persecute. But we're all in this together, And I find it horrifying every day, and I think that's what made me finally stop ignoring the emails saying "come to a meeting." And I was like, okay, and it was during COVID, so we were Zooming, but we were talking and. Even when you're not, which we always are actively doing something, but sometimes just having people coming together like this and just sometimes it's just does a lot just to see another similar bumper sticker and something besides the hateful and weird and crazy cult stuff. That helps me a lot knowing that there's other humans out there. It's, it's not just me. I'm in Twilight Zone kind of thing. And I think that things like this, just gathering together is a lot good in and of itself, but it's not enough. And I don't really have a really good speech, but like I said, we're very member-led. Most of our bosses are fellow volunteers. I did get a little extra addicted to KFTC when a few times I've been not employee still, but a contracted event canvasser. And so when you're getting paid a little bit and you're comparing yourself to others and you're filling in that she knows that event tracker where it says how many people you registered to vote and yada yada yada, then it's it's really exciting and now I like doing it for free because it's you feel like you need to, and I've wasted all this time of my life when I didn't. I should do this, but KFTC has a plan, and we do all the things. We're worried about all of the injustices in the world. We have some more favorites. We have. Our Moms Demand Action already know about the guns and stuff, so we let them handle that. But, environmental justice, housing, health care, which, reproductive included, LGBTQIA+, impacted people who have had felonies in their past and can't vote, and maybe they can and they don't know it, and we tried a little bit of that too. But all of the injustices often overlap. You'll find racism in overcrowded prisons, and racism in the overcrowded prisons relate to people not being able to vote again. And it's Kentucky and one other state, I can't remember, Iowa. I always get that wrong. There's only 2 states in the country where they can take away your right to vote permanently for the rest of your life just because you've had a felony, regardless of what it was. And problem with, so the next time we have an election and we have the ability to have a proposed amendment, we're going to try with lots of our brethren in the Voting Rights Coalition to have it in the Constitution amended that you should automatically get your rights back after you've completed all of your time. And when the wonderful Governor Andy signed the executive order in 2019, gave thousands their rights back. None of them know it, but there's still thousands more. There's still thousands more that didn't. Plus, heaven forbid, another a different sort of governor comes in, he can just quickly reverse that. And so we need an amendment to make it more ingrained. And I remember when they, one of our organizers first mentioned something about voting rights. I didn't know anything about it. That's another thing. Most people don't even know that they take away your rights, and not everybody knows what all things are felonies. And it's like, some of it's kind of lame. It doesn't really sound that big and scary. And I said out loud, well, I don't think that'll be. Yeah, I agree. I think voting is important, and all citizens should be treated like citizens should do it. But I don't think that will be my number one priority. I changed my mind after I met a lot of, nice, decent people that, maybe they did something dumb when they were a kid, and, who didn't. And the sentence is over, but it's not, because there's so many other barriers. But as far as what's going on in Washington, we are, the K and KFTC is for a reason, but there are a lot of things happening. I don't relinquish, I don't say that there's nothing we can do. It's not out of our control. But when our state legislators, and I mean mine specifically, sometimes are reading directly from the Project 2025 playbook, and they're writing horrible laws, we can deal with that here. Okay, maybe not after today, but like today, I got a email probably from the fairness campaign, and so I sent an email and I called the legislative message line to tell them, let's don't overturn the vetoes, because they're good, they're for a reason. And then she sounded like a little old lady at the message line center, and she said, I said, please ask them to sustain the vetoes, especially House Bill 495, that was the conversion therapy or torture, shall we say, bill. And I felt like she was probably with me, but she said, yeah, they're not going to do that. And I said, yeah, but I got to try. And so, they're not going to listen if you don't say anything. So why not just go ahead and say anything? Because if enough people get together and they're consolidated and they have, a system and a plan, something's got to change. And as far as what does KFTC do, we're really big on voting and citizen involvement, and we like to not just preach at people, we like to give them the tools and get them excited about being involved, from your your school board or your city councils to your state and all up, because it matters. And they're sitting around making a lot of decisions about you that do affect you. And yeah, they do. You don't think they do, maybe, but yeah, they do. And yes, you do actually care. And they try to make it harder for you to get involved, but don't let them stop you. So voter registration is one of our big things, which is, not going to be as sexy and interesting without an election until next year. But we register thousands of people to vote, and yes, you can do it online. But we like to go to tables and have like the old-fashioned paper, because it really helps to have somebody kind of looking over your shoulder, because so many times it'll have like county and someone will put USA, and if I hadn't gone, I don't know about that, we need to change that, then there would have been garbage and that person wouldn't have been a voter. And we can talk to them about it, and we don't tell them how to vote. Later on, maybe we do, but we just get excited, because it's not really a democracy unless everybody votes, and it's just such a small minority of people bother to coming out. And you always hear like, if it rains, voter turnout's going to be really. People died for this, right? So let's all vote. And I've got a voter registration card. I'm sure everybody here is registered. It's all updated. But there's ways, you can check to make sure if you move or your name has changed for any reason, you need to update that. And I was worried about what I was going to talk about, but I know I can just talk if I don't have anything to say. But as far as specifics, what can I do? Yes, I know that too. My KFTC chapter is in Shelbyville, which isn't that far, but we have members here in Frankfort, and actually on April the 3rd, the Rolling Bluegrass chapter, which I don't remember which counties that is specifically, is going to have a meeting here on 100 Clinton Street at 6 to 8 p.m., but there's also going to be a Zoom option. So if you don't want to drive, you can join by video, which is cool. Also, if you happen to be in my neighborhood, April 17th is the Shelby County's chapter meeting. We always meet the third Thursday of the month at the Stratton Community Center, and that's another thing. They try to take the community center away from the community a couple of years ago, and we and others went to fiscal court meetings and called the members, and we helped kind of keep it around because they wanted to charge for it, and they said, we're not in the room rental business, but it's still there, and partly because of us. And we like to have, meetings that we talk about. We like to have specific goals. Sometimes we have like a themed meeting. And last one we had this lovely, interesting lady named Mari Mujica, which I'm probably saying wrong, and she did some yoga-like moves and we did some little artsy things, which is not typically what we do, but because you need to take care of yourself, just to stay sane, so you can keep going and you can encourage the person next to you to keep going. But next time we're looking at many issues that seem overwhelming, but we can't let that get to us. We worry about our immigrants, and in Shelby County, maybe specifically, we have a lot of people that may or may not be citizens. Who cares? They're humans. And we know some people on the board of it's called Centro Latino, that does a lot of services for people. And we're hoping to get some advice from them and maybe get someone to come to our meeting and tell us how we can, protect our neighbors that are just humans too. But in other things, okay, and also back in Shelby County on April 19th, I know there's other things going on that day. We're having our Dogwood Festival, and KFTC is going to have a table, and lots of cool organizations do, and there's crafts and jams and jellies and music. But we do a lot of voter registration. We do a lot of other tabling and petitioning. One of our favorites is the voting rights thing. We get people to sign petitions about, I think a person who has a felony in their past should have their rights restored. Or we have one that says, there should be a fairness ordinance in Shelby County. Lots of smaller and more rednecky towns do, because it's still perfectly legal to discriminate against someone for job or housing or whatever just because of your gender or your other identities. But that way, and it's less much of a legal document as it's a really great icebreaker to talk to people, and you find these people that are on the same page with you, and you have your contact information, and you make friends with them, and you invite them back out to more meetings, and it just kind of grows. But there is stuff we can do, and we're going to stay sane, and I'm leaving out a lot of things, but I feel like I've taken way more than my share of time already, so thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Martha. Yes.
Martha brought up something, and I want to just sort of interject in here. The folks from, I have a statement from the folks from the Frankfort Immigration Assistance Network. For reasons that are probably obvious to a lot of you, they would prefer not to be on camera. But I wanted to say a little bit about them and about how that you possibly could, help with their efforts. The Frankfort Immigration Assistance Network is a grassroots organization that was founded in 2017 and is committed to supporting the immigrants in our community. To date, the actual impact on the Frankfort immigrants has been limited, but the network stands ready to help because they do feel that there's going to be local impact by the current administration's policies. What you all can do to help, just be aware, learn more about what the immigration policies are, what's going on, recognize and embrace the power of community, extend your hospitality, show your solidarity, and use your privilege if the need arises. Get to know your immigrant neighbors, volunteer in spheres where there are immigrants. And if you want to do something even more concrete, you can donate money to the Frankfort Immigration Assistance Network. Their post office box is 4815, and that's 40604, and we'll put all this information on our website after the program, but I just wanted to make sure that we did mention that there is an effort here to look after the interests of our immigrant community.
Thanks, Ed. Carlos?
All right. Hello, everyone. Who in here has heard of 5051? Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I'll still be of some use, I'm sure. So, but good. I'm glad the message has gotten out. I'm glad you guys have heard of it. How many people here have felt that feeling of, I want to do something, but I don't know what to do, right? Yeah. That's what I call potential energy, right? And that's really what 5051 grew out of, right? It was one Reddit user after January 20th who saw all these posts from people saying, we've got to do something, but nobody's saying what we've got to do. And he just posted, let's all protest at our capitals, at our state capitals on February 5th. And it caught fire, and it happened. And a bunch of people in different states all got together and organized and made rallies in their states happen all across the U.S. And we've done that 3 times since, right? So kind of what 50501 really is it's not really an organization so much as it is a movement. It's decentralized. There's no 501c. There are people who own this or that website, but it's really all organized independently just by people who want to do something, but they're not sure what else to do. And I think for a lot of folks, this has become the thing to do, right? I think for a lot of us that had that feeling of helplessness, now feel like we have more of a mission. The mission is not as focused as some of these other organizations, right? Our goal is really broad, right? Our goal is to get people out, make some noise, get media attention, show that people are not happy with how things are going, but also potentially provide the opportunity for people to get more involved with other things. So we do we try to get involved with other organizations as much as possible so that, if you come with our rally, hopefully you go away with something else that you can do. But our commitment is to have those rallies regardless. We're going to keep having them. We've had 1 or 2 a month since all of this began. I think the power of 5051 comes from its unrestricted approach, right? We don't wait to know necessarily what our full plan is, what we want to achieve. We just go and we do it, right? And we have these rallies. So 5051KY was also started by a Reddit user who, in response to the Reddit posts, volunteered to organize a local rally at Frankfort, and several of us got involved, and none of us had ever organized anything before, but our commitment, our passion, our dedication helped us pull it off. We pulled it off 3 times so far. We continue to maintain a commitment to the principles that 5051 grew out of. So engaging the public, providing an outlet, nonpartisan, nonviolent, decentralized, and broad-focused. And the primary goal for us is to get people involved in anything, so long as it relates to pushing back against the Trump administration's Project 2025 agenda. So the main thing that we offer is a time and place for people to come together and feel connected. A platform for people to tell their stories. So at every one of our rallies, we've had an ability for people to sign up and come up and talk about how they're being affected by things, and an opportunity for more focused organizations to potentially connect with people and get other actions going. We have done some of our own things as well. We have a Signal chat where we post actions that people can take throughout the week. We've been focusing a lot on getting people involved in phone banking for the Wisconsin Supreme Court election, because that is going to be a pivotal race in determining whether Wisconsin is a blue state or a red state going forward. If she doesn't get elected, they will probably redraw the district lines to make sure it turns red, right? We also offer a broad reach across social media. So if someone is having a rally and they partner with 50501KY, luckily it's going to be a pretty big rally, because we have lots of contacts across social media. As this grew quickly, the national organization points stuff towards the local organization as well. We have more rallies planned. So we've done 3 so far at the Capitol, and we have another one at the Frankfort Capitol on the 5th. That's from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. This time we're also doing one in Louisville as well. So we're doing that for the first time. We're expanding. And we're doing that in coordination with Indivisible. Who here's heard of Indivisible? Okay, so we've got a Louisville Indivisible group that's working with us as well. So it's kind of a co-organized rally happening in Louisville. We have, I should tell you guys what speakers we have in Louisville, even though you guys will probably go to the Frankfort one. But we have Morgan McGarvey as well as a few other representatives speaking at that one. So that's some of the things that we offer. Some of the things that we need is more volunteers. This is a 100% volunteer effort. And anyone who's doing anything with 50501 is because they stepped up and they said, I want to help. Maybe they had an idea of something they could do that they saw wasn't being done yet, so they jumped in and started doing it. But we do specifically need more what we call peacekeepers, right? So these are just people who would volunteer to wear an orange vest and just be someone who can make the people there feel a little bit safer, right? Someone they can go to if they need help, if they see something suspicious. It's not a security role. It's not a bouncer role. It's nothing like that. It's just someone who kind of has their eyes on things and who's there to keep things peaceful and positive. Really, every time we've had these so far, it's just been people wearing vests and nothing else has really happened. But the more of those we can have, the better. It makes people feel safe. It makes us feel stronger as well. If you would like to get involved, you can go to 50501ky.com. So that's 50501ky.com. And on the front page, you can sign up right there to get on our email list. If you click in the top right-hand corner, there's a drop-down. There's a Contact Us section. You can actually sign up specifically for volunteering if you are interested in volunteering as well. That's it for me. Thanks, guys.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
I've gone to 2 of those, and the third one was very impressive.
Yeah.
I liked it that you brought everybody down and circled them up and down the sidewalk to the Capitol. I felt like that was so much more effective than staying up at the Capitol. It's easy to ignore all the stuff that's going on at the Capitol because there's so much.
Yeah.
But to see those people walking, it was great.
Yeah, the march was fantastic. And that, again, that came out of a suggestion, right? Because, again, we've never done these things before. This is all new organizers, and we've had lots of people say, "Hey, next time do this," and we're like, "Hey, that's a great idea." So we will be marching again next time. We'll be marching at the Louisville rally as well. So. All right, thank you, guys.
Okay. Aaron Biles is going to Progress Kentucky was going to be speaking for Indivisible, and he.
I think you need a mic, Barbara.
Oh. Sorry, thank you. Good idea. And he had to cancel out at the last minute, so I'm going to try and fill in for him. I have already read through this Indivisible guide. It says, Indivisible, a practical guide to democracy on the brink. Strategies, tactics, and tips for how everyday Americans can fight back together wherever we live. After Trump was elected in 2016, some congressional staffers got together, and they were very concerned about what he was going to be doing as president, and so they wrote a guide on how people could push back if things got out of control. Ezra, I think it's Levine, he's now the executive director of the whole group. It's a national group. In Kentucky, there is a group in Louisville. Did you find out the name?
If you want to reach the Louisville group, you can contact them on any social media. It's Indivisible Lou KY, L-O-U-K-Y.
Indivisible Lou, L-O-U, dot or just?
And on some of the socials it's dot, and on some of them it's without the dot.
Okay,
So, yeah.
KY. And in Lexington, I was thinking that the Progress Kentucky, which Aaron Viles runs, was connected with them, or working with them anyway, Indivisible. We do not have a group in Frankfort. This guide has a lot of information in it, and one of the things it has is instructions for forming a group. But let me go through some of the information that I thought might be interesting. I've already said some of this stuff. The summary of this guide is they have a chapter on what happened and why it matters. They have a chapter on a quick primer on constituent power. They have and another chapter on a plan to get through the next 2 years, which is say no to Project 2025. Pick strategic fights. We can't win them all, can't even play them all. We will play hardball. We'll push Dems on all levels to block, delay, and challenge the actions that are coming down from this administration. Work to protect and win elections, fight election deniers, and win in 2026. This guide talks about protecting and preparing, and that's to support communities that are under attack now, and also how to learn to operate under authoritarian conditions. They suggest that we find or form local indivisible groups. There's more power in groups. Throughout the entire guide, they emphasize an individual doesn't have that much power. Groups do. They're indicating one point I thought was interesting because we were in a Republican-safe congressional district, it appears. It says Republicans from safe districts will ignore pressure from outside their base. Your job is to tell the story in your own community, recognizing you are not likely to shift their votes in the short term. And that's something that we can do is start listening, identifying, and telling the story, especially to the people who are not tuned in. One thing that was interesting to me, I have a woman that works with me, helps with my yard, and today she said, you know, I have never been paying much attention to what was going on in government. She said, but now I'm really paying attention. And I thought, okay, it's getting through to a lot of people that we normally don't listen. It suggests that we support local Dems in office, really put the pressure on our local Democratic officials to push back at what's coming down from Washington and to support them and to say thank you. Combat disinformation and develop our own communication systems. Get together and come up with ideas. And I'm curious if anybody has any ideas of how you develop your own communication system on the panel or among the audience. And when we have discussion shortly, maybe some of you can come up with ideas. Mainly, don't be isolated. Stay connected. The goal is broad-based activism. And they said there are 3 main takeaways from this document. This is a time-limited plan to make it to 2026. Winning in 2026 won't guarantee democracy is safe in the long term, but it gives us a shot. Secondly, success requires each of us to play a different role based on our geography. Some will play defense, some will play offense, but we're all operating as one team. Choose your play based on where you live. We identify 3 major plays: fighting nationally to stop harm and build backlash, organizing blue cities and states to play hardball, and protecting and winning elections in swing states. That sort of leaves us out, but we'll find other ways of helping. This was interesting to me. They said they had a little section on what's changed since the first guide came out in 2016. It was 2016, excuse me. It's been 8 years since the original Indivisible Guide, and some big things have changed. Republicans are more aligned. In 2017, Trump still hadn't consolidated his control over the Republican Party, which meant that some Republicans were vulnerable to advocacy pressure. That's much less true today. Unless they're in a swing district, the average Republican is far more afraid of a primary challenge than of your group of constituents. Media has consolidated and shrunk. As local media sources have folded or been absorbed by the right-wing corporations, local press coverage has gotten harder to get. And the press coverage we can get has less impact on delivering a political blow or bringing new people into our coalition, as people are increasingly ensconced in media bubbles that confirm their existing point of view. Third, electeds have adapted to increased constituent pressure. Maybe the biggest shift is that many elected officials now actively avoid making their schedules available, hosting events open to the public, or engaging with anyone in their district who might disagree with them. Sound familiar? Many don't even appear in traditional news outlets where they might face a fair question, but stick to friendly right-wing outfits. Another comment in here was, help, I'm tired of protesting. A lot of people are burned out on the idea of protesting and marching. And honestly, we get it. Too often in Trump 1.0, we embrace the aesthetics of protests instead of using them as part of a strategy. Let's be clear, protest is a strategic tool to achieve your goal. It is not a form of self-expression or therapy. If you're staging a protest, be clear about what you're trying to accomplish. Who are you trying to influence? What are the tactics that will get their attention? The answer might be a march to demonstrate your power, but it also might be something less showy, like lots of calls to an office or an op-ed in your local paper. In an imperiled democracy, individuals are powerless, but groups are not. The MAGAs want to isolate us, make us easier to divide and conquer. By forming, joining, leading, and building our own local groups, we create power that we can wield. Your group's legitimacy comes from your geography. Online tools are great, but this isn't an online movement. Successful groups are rooted in geographic communities, a neighborhood, a town, and a congressional district. Regular weekly or monthly in-person meetings bring people together. Leadership, recruitment, community, impact. The strongest indivisible groups have multiple leaders with differing and overlapping roles, and these groups actively work to create fun, welcoming environments for members. But they are more than a social club. Indivisible groups exist to take action and have impact. Those are some of the suggestions from this guidebook. If you go to Indivisible on the computer, you just, the main site comes up and you can find the guide on there and you can print this off. And it's basically has a how to organize an indivisible group. It's really comprehensive and it's very helpful. I don't know if that's something we want to do in this community or not. Another thing is, and I'm not sure if it came from 50501, but there are people are having town meetings without their representatives. Is that something 50501 is doing, or is somebody else?
Indivisible has done most of that.
Okay.
We did one. Yeah.
I know they told me when I was on a call, they said, who's in the first district? And I said, I am. They said, we're having a town hall in Paducah. Can you be there? I explained the redistricting. So, if we want to have one in this end of the district, they're looking for people and a place to have one, if there's anybody interested in doing something like that. Another thing, I don't know, is Terry here? Terry Carter? No. Okay, I was hoping she'd come tonight. You've probably read columns by Terry Carter on, she's from Lawrenceburg, and she covers a lot of the political stuff. Anyway, she was talking about influencing the legislators because she's really up close, covering this stuff as well as participating in some activism. And she said, right now, she said, to really get your opinion to a representative, you're almost going to have his or her cell phone number. They were talking about postcards just sort of get stacked up and then tossed. The letters, same thing. If it's not from a constituency, they're not interested. And the phone calls, even now, that used to be the way to get to them, with stacks of those pink sheets that the message recipients would, or the call people on call would take to the desks. They're not, they're just sort of, she said they're sort of putting them in by subject matter and just kind of looking at the stacks. So, you know, we've got to figure out new and innovative ways of getting to our representatives, I think. Some of the old ways are not going to work. And the other thing, I think it is important to have these town halls, and if our representative doesn't show up, have them anyway. They had one in Lexington at the theater over there, Kentucky Theater, and it was quite impressive. So that's what I have to say.
I can add some things about
Sure.
Invisible.
Sure. Great.
All right, so I heard back in some messages. For Louisville, the best way to get in contact with Indivisible is going to be their Gmail address, which is indivisible louky, all one word, LOUKY, at gmail.com. So if you email them, they'll... Yep, it's indivisible, LOUKY, all one word, at gmail.com. So, and if you email there, you'll get on their email list for all of their everything that they're doing. Indivisible Lexington is also having a rally on April 5th. That's going to be from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. It's going to be at the Robert F. Stevens Courthouse Plaza. And if you go to mobilize.us, is everyone here familiar with that website? Get familiar with that website, mobilize.us. ACLU's on there, Kentuckians for the Commonwealth is on there. It's a great place to find things that you can do. If you go there right now, you'll find something you can do this week or next week to get involved. So it's a great place to look. But if you search for Hands Off, Lexington Fights Back, that will get you information on Indivisible Lexington's rally. And if you sign up for it, they'll have your email address so that they can email you future events as well. So. Hands Off, Lexington Fights Back.
Is Frankfort having a hands-off run?
Yep, Frankfort's will be at the Capitol from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. On the 5th, yeah. It's going to be on the 5th. It's a joint effort between nationally between 5051, Indivisible, and Women's March to do the one on the 5th. So some of the organizations are doing separate ones, but a lot of them are coordinated as well. So.
Okay, well, before we open this for discussion, let's let Laura Best tell us how we can hang on to our sanity through all this.
I'll do my best. So I am a local clinician here in Frankfort. I've been working in Frankfort for about 15 years in private practice. Before that, I worked in a multitude of places. I was a professor at UK. I worked at Family Care Center in Lexington. I cut my teeth as a community mental health counselor in Lexington. So my roots are really in social work. So what I did was I kind of put together a few things that I thought might be some bullet points that might be helpful as we kind of all stumble our way through this process. So let's start with some stats. Political concerns topped the American Psychological Association's Stress in America survey in 2024. Not necessarily a surprise. 77% said that the future of our nation was a significant source of stress in their lives. Anybody else feel that way? Yeah, right. Yeah, okay. This is a particularly concerning statistic. Unfortunately, also not a surprise. 1 in 20 reported they were so distressed about politics that they had suicidal ideation at some point. That's a staggering number, in my opinion. 32% report that political concerns have caused strain between family members. I think that's a pretty common experience for a lot of people as well. And so what do we know about specifically the political stress, right? It's chronic, right? It's unavoidable. It's everywhere. It's very divisive. It's isolating. Barbara, you kind of touched on that too. When we worry about things, we tend to isolate to kind of try to get our mind around it. And I think that can be problematic, particularly in this scenario.
I think that there's a 24/7 saturation with news and information, and that sometimes is problematic for coping and from a mental health perspective. I was talking with one of my colleagues yesterday about, just generally the flow of clients that we have coming in, talking about stress and anxiety and depression that's connected to this, and we were sort of tongue-in-cheek kind of joking about adding a specifier to generalized anxiety disorder for political stress, like election stress disorder, because, legitimately there's so much real mental health, that's attached to this. So I thought I might talk about two general areas. So maybe like, how do you manage conversations when you disagree, particularly with family members or just generally? And then also so what can we do about it? How can we take care of ourselves? So in terms of the conversations, I would encourage folks to find areas where you do agree. Commonalities don't necessarily mean you agree with everything, right? But you may have the same general goal, but a different pathway to get there. Sometimes that's not possible, but when it is, really, kind of seek that out. Working to be open and kind, regardless of whether you are met with that or not. Keeping calm when tensions arise. Sometimes in those kinds of conversations, it's very easy to match somebody's energy. Having a goal for your conversation so that it is less likely to kind of get a little squirrely or a little wily. Accepting that you might not change their mind, but discussing it anyway. And reminding yourself it's okay to disagree with somebody that you care about. That's okay. Knowing when to end the conversation. Most of us have probably had that experience as well. And, being proactive as opposed to reactive in those conversations. So what can we do about it? I think limiting chronic exposure in terms of our consumption of information, setting some boundaries for yourself. Sometimes with the teenagers that I work with, I will have them put parameters on their phones for how much time they're spending on this or that, application on their phone. I think that's also good to do with our consumption of news and information. Taking social media breaks or breaks generally, limiting your notifications. So if you happen to have an app that you're getting information from, that it doesn't reach out for you, that you reach out for it. Considering reading rather than watching to get your information, because that is you reaching for it. And I think what that also does is it allows you the opportunity to reach for a trusted source that you're not, I like to call it drinking from a fire hose, because that's what it feels like sometimes. It's just like peeling your face back because there's so much information. This is kind of talked about here, and I think that there's a lot of opportunities that were talked about today. Seeking community in a meaningful ways to get involved. I think if there are active steps with some of these things, it really works to kind of lessen that overall sense of stress because you're doing something. There's a place for that energy that just kind of gets, stuck with a sense of stress. Focusing on what you can control and channeling your energy into positive channels. Because it can kind of eat at you otherwise. Creating space for stillness, so deep breathing, doing a body scan, checking in with where you might be holding your tension. That's a good way to kind of release some of that stress. Practice mindfulness throughout your day, mindfully eating, gratitude check-ins, doing things that cause you to sort of be in a mindful state of mind. Taking care of yourself by recharging yourself with creative outlets or gardening, yoga, walking. My standards that I typically use for the clients that I work with is eat, sleep, move, and be social. That's kind of the sort of 4 basics for how to engage in self-care. Seeking solace in a faith-based or community organization where there's some shared meaning, shared understanding, shared goal perhaps. And prioritizing self-compassion. So giving yourself permission to kind of step back, acknowledge how you feel, kind of recharge a little bit, and then get back into it, because I was talking with somebody before we started tonight, and, you are the tool when it comes to some of the activism that we've been talking about. So you have to take care of yourself in order to be able to do those things. and living your values. So making choices that are congruent and aligned with what you identify as your value system. Those are the things that will allow you to sort of feel a little bit less stress. So that's kind of all that I have, but I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have about specific things. And I will, I guess, open it up for questions or maybe see what our next steps
Yeah,
are.
I think it'd be nice to, if you don't mind, maybe we could post that on our website.
I would be
So
happy to
everybody-
send that. Yes, yes.
So everybody can share that.
And
That's a good
actually, I
tip.
have a list of podcasts and books that also might be of interest. I didn't save the updated version when I printed this out, so I will have to send that to you. But yes,
Okay.
I'm happy to do that.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Barbara, I want to know how much you charge an hour.
That depends on your insurance company.
So no, Margaret, where's Margaret Townsley? Oh, there you are. Margaret handles the website, so she's going to be busy for the next few days making sure that all of this information is on our website so folks can find it. I want to, before we get into questions, I want to point out for those of you that want to take a more partisan tack to this, the Kentucky Democratic Party is reorganizing. They do it every 4 years, but because of COVID, it's in some weird cycle, and we're doing it this year. So Heidi Hemstra is mobilizing folks for the reorg of the local Democratic Party here. It's going to take place on May 10th. So if you have any interest at all, see Heidi.
So let-
I know this is a nonpartisan group, but I'm currently on the executive committee as Terry, and I think I see Lila there. And we are trying to push the party in a more activist direction here locally. Blue dots in Kentucky, and I gotta say, the Republicans had their committee, had their conventions in January. They had 100 people come out. They have a full slate of precinct people. They have never done that before. So certainly we have energy right now, but so do they. And we really need to match those numbers or do better. So May 10, if you live in town, you can come to the precinct committee. We don't have a location and a specific time set yet, but I'm hoping to get it on Mobilize because I do a lot of stuff on Mobilize now. It's a fantastic way to do it, and otherwise we'll definitely communicate details through this group. So love to have everybody and anybody come.
Thank you. Let's start with anybody questions?
Open it up to you all.
I have a comment, well, and a question. So my comment, of course, is we have to be very careful who we're talking to when we say check out or don't worry about it or don't look every day, because some of you all have the privilege of not having to worry about things that are happening every day to you, to your community, to you, to your family. So I think we have to be careful about saying, oh, stop reading that, stop looking at that. So just because you don't know what someone's background is. My next question is, the rally is going to be Saturday at the Capitol. And you said that there are questions that you have to ask. So my first question is, who are you reaching? And my next question is, what is the purpose of that rally?
Great questions. And 50501 is different, right? It's counterintuitive to a lot of folks, right? So I think, if you think of the roots of 50501, it was during this time when there were all these, very focused organizations, right, who had all had their own niche, and they weren't taking a step yet, right? They weren't moving yet. And 50501 answered that and said, we don't know what we're doing, but we're getting out there, right? So we're not going to wait to have figured out exactly what our plan is and what our goal is. We're going to get out there and get people together. I think if you want to think about what we've accomplished, I think it is raising awareness on a very broad level, raising awareness that people are not happy with what this administration is doing, right? And there have been talks about should we pick an area and hone in on it, but it really feels like whack-a-mole, right? It's like you go after this, there's just too much coming at us, and there's other solid organizations like folks to the right and left of me who know what they're doing and have a really focused plan on how they're doing that. So for us, it's get people out there, make some noise, right? What I can,
Suggestion.
yeah, absolutely.
They're going to be back in session next week. Everyone seems to be afraid of going inside the annex where they are at. That's where we need to be. We need to be in the halls. We need to have our signs up. There are people that come every year that plant outside of the cafeteria with their signs and what they're saying, because the legislators have to look at it. So if we're trying to reach and if we're trying to give a message, we need to actually connect with the people that we're trying to get the message to. So my suggestion, and I will be there, is next week when they're in, we need a group of people in the annex where they're having their meetings, holding your signs up, making your, that's our building.
So it's
public.
It's a really good suggestion, and I do think we need to see more of that kind of thing. Here's what I would recommend, and Indivisible is a great group for this kind of thing, right? Kind of the way Indivisible works is if you want to organize something, you go on there and you say, I want to organize something. They will provide you a toolkit and they will train you in organization as well, and help you with outreach and things of that nature. So I think, for anyone who has an idea like that, get involved there. Get involved with 50501 too, because 50501 is very decentralized. Everything we do is someone's idea, right? It's someone's idea that goes up the chain. People discuss it, they talk, they move forward in it. So I would say get involved with both of those organizations and, start making suggestions. And
Get involved with me. Plan the march that we had.
I'm so sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but the last day of session is tomorrow. They have to adjourn sine die by midnight, but the interim legislative session will begin. The calendar isn't out yet. I mean, still, I guess, feel free to go to the Capitol, but the legislators are going home tomorrow. Tomorrow's the last day, but the interim will begin in early June, and that's a great way to keep. Okay.
I don't want to interrupt you, Heather.
No, you're good.
I was just thinking, because tomorrow, that's the same thing I was going to say. Tomorrow is the last day. There is a rally tomorrow at the Capitol that's sponsored by the League of Women Voters. It's going to be from, let's see, what time is it? At noon, I believe, is when it's going to start. Noon to 2. And what they're saying, this is what's on their on their Facebook page. The League of Women Voters of Kentucky is calling on all League members, friends, and citizen advocacy groups to stand together at the Democracy Principle Rally at noon on Friday, March 28th in the Capitol Rotunda. And their point is that we're getting boxed out from the legislature. They have figured out so many ways to keep our voices from ever penetrating their eyeballs or their ears. And this is going to be the last chance we have this session to make noise in their presence. And so anyway, I'm going to be there, and I hope that, you guys live in Frankfort, most of you. So it's in the Rotunda at noon tomorrow.
Okay. Have you kept up with this bill that they proposed, that if we make any noise that still interferes with their work, they have the right to send the police to arrest us, and the first arrest can be up to a year in jail. So did that pass?
They overturned the veto.
So if we go, well, inside, I'm really worried about
Well,
it.
the other thing is next session. So the Capitol Rotunda is currently under construction, and then it will be shut down for the next undetermined amount of time. So they've built a building next door, but they've already said that there won't be a gallery in the House or the Senate to watch. But you can watch on KET. I know that's not in person, but it's still good to keep following along with the session.
Well, are you concerned about this bill they have supposedly passed, that they have the right to arrest us? I don't know how they determine the noise level. Even outside, they could say, oh, they're disturbing our work.
I think that bill wasn't even needed, because they could have arrested you just like they arrested the protesting the transgender stuff, all they had to do was say, please leave, and when you don't leave, they can arrest you for trespassing. So I would guess this bill will probably be challenged, but they could already arrest anybody. I represented the Poor People's Campaign, and nobody wanted nobody wanted to arrest the protesters, even the 16 who refused to leave the Capitol and who threw sheets over Jefferson Davis. They'd take them down, then they'd throw the sheets back over. They were not arrested, but they could have been arrested. So, and I'm just going to go out on the limb here. I have a friend, many of you know her, probably Reba Rai, who believes that the problem in this country is we are too comfortable. And there has to be something where we push back in ways that put our bodies at risk here. And young people are willing to do that. But until we stand up and say no more and put ourselves at risk, all of this is going to continue to go on. And I'm protesting and voting and registering people to vote, it hasn't gotten us anywhere. That's my 2 cents.
So if the question is coming from anxiety as to should I go to that protest or not, I can say that 50501KY has a good relationship with Capitol Security. So we speak with them every time we go. They always thank us. They say they like our rallies. It's got a positive energy. It's peaceful. It's nonviolent. So we have a good relationship with them. We stay in communication with them. So.
I have a couple of questions. One is anybody working together nationally to do a big march on Washington? Does anybody know anything about that?
There will be one on the 5th. 50501, Indivisible, and Women's March are doing a DC rally. So.
Okay, that's good. The other thing, some of the things I've read, and you alluded to this, but that you get momentum when you pick something and win on it. And one of the things that I've seen mentioned, or what I'm thinking about, is Social Security. And I'm thinking, and Medicare and Medicaid. Because that's going to affect a lot of the people that voted for him. And so it's just an idea of, like, going at that. So, I mean, there's 100 other things. There's 100, it's frightening, it's all horrible. But something that would affect those people. Just tell you a little story. I got to talk to my mail carrier one day, and it just came up about somehow, she wants to retire, and she's afraid. I said, well, I hope they don't privatize it. And she's like, yeah, I know, I've been in there, and so then it got to us talking about what's going on with a little scary. And she told me she voted for Trump, and I did not shame her or anything. But I said, well, the only thing I can tell you is the next time there's an election, just hold your nose and vote for the Democrats. But anyway, I can just see, and I mean, I live in Owen County, Southern Owen County, and we are hearing people that are saying, well, what? I didn't think they were going to do this. So that's where I think if the voting thing started changing, you might get these legislators' attention even though they don't want to talk.
So just like they use LB that community, the Republicans use that to get their base. You're saying use Social Security to get our base.
Social Security and healthcare.
Yeah.
You know.
You can, that's where the storytelling comes in. And start telling the story in your community and start gathering those people together. And having a goal for the protest. There may need to be a protest, march or something for Social Security. And, you know, I'll roll out the wheelchair and ride in it and, you know. But you made a point.
Hands off Social Security, Medicare, and Medicare. Yeah. So anyway, I'll push you.
Heidi, Jim, something.
I wanted to mention one other thing. Well, okay, two things. On the legislature, I went to, I do some different lobbying days. There was the Moms for Climate Action. Thank goodness for that. I think it's Michael Bloomberg money. They are so organized. It's an anti-gun violence group. And that was a great event. And everybody, we were all there, hundreds of people in our red t-shirts. We didn't go into the main chambers, but we sat in the back of a bunch of different committees. And that is, you know, you're just quiet, you're just there. You're just obvious why you're there and you're paying attention. So some of that can be powerful and still be quiet and totally above board as far as they're concerned. Also, I wanted to let you know there's a little group meeting of mostly disaffected former Democrats or Democrats wanting to do more activist stuff. I did the little Comer thing last month with them. That was fun, but very small, and we might do that again. But we do want to do a Comer town hall. We're looking at the break, not the one for Easter, which is in April, but the one at the end of May is the next big congressional break. I think there's plenty of time. That might even be something this group would want to sponsor. This other group, I don't see anybody here. No, but I don't know that that's moving towards becoming an organization. I really want an indivisible here, but I personally can't make it happen. So if anybody wants to lead the charge, let me know. I'll help anybody.
How do we become aware of what you do and what? How do we stay on top of what you're doing and how to participate on that? Where's a site we can go to participate in that?
I would say Mobilize is a good source. As
Okay.
said, anything officially with the Democratic Party is going on there.
It's
as
a-
well as other organizations. And outside of that, I'm not sure. We're going to be phone banking for the convention, so you may get a call if you're a registered Democrat. But we got 12,000 registered Democrats to call. Obviously, we're not going to get them all. But there will be more public communication as we get closer on that front. And I'm certainly the Comer thing. Oh yeah, we'll be plastering that wherever we can.
Good.
Does somebody want to explain better Mobilize? We had asked.
It says mobilize.us, right, is the site you can go to.
It's a website that a lot of progressive organizations use to publicize their events. So like he was saying, KFTC's on there, the ACLU's on there, Kentucky Dems are on there. And there's like a kind of a landing page, for lack of a better word, where if you go to one event, you'll be there will be other events that are like similar that are suggested to you. So it's not, you don't have to necessarily like have a login and have a profile and all that, but you just sign up and then it will save your information. Yes, there's a feed of, thank you, that's a better word, a feed, a news feed like on Facebook, but it's not, Zuckerberg.
I don't know. How many of you how many of you are familiar with Forward Kentucky? Bruce Maple. Yeah. Bruce what? Maple. Okay, I'm sorry. I was having a senior moment. He has just posted that he's going to run a calendar of all the events. So if we just email him at, it's Forward Kentucky, isn't it? Because I belong to another group that says Kentucky Forward. Anyway, Forward Kentucky, Bruce Maples is offering to post on his, he's got a newsletter and all kinds of things, on his site, any events that are coming up and contact information and such.
I'll just add off of what Heidi was saying that if you go to a committee hearing, if you all have ever either watched KET or you've been there in person, you've seen people testify either for or against a bill, you don't have to be a lobbyist. You don't have to be part of an organization to testify. You can, as a concerned citizen, go sign up and testify. So it sounds scary, but it's really, it's no different than this, except the people on the other side might not be as friendly, but they're not going to, they can't really do anything to you. Well, I say that with a lot of privilege. But, yeah.
What if Together Frankfort identified as a
Is Indivisible partisan?
No, they have a coalition with the Working Families Party. And they do some work to get. Indivisible is not partisan, though they do work to get officials elected that stand for the things that they stand for. So they've been involved in trying to get Susan Crawford elected to the Supreme Court in Wisconsin as well, involved in that race. But and they also have a coalition with the Working Families Party as well. But other than that, I would say they're nonpartisan.
Question for anybody who knows more about this than I do. For all of the disturbing executive actions coming out of Washington, one of the things that bothers me a lot is the gutting of the Department of Education and funding and programs that have a direct impact on local school districts. And I guess we don't know yet really what's going to happen, but it's going to affect everybody, and particularly the lower resource school districts around the country. So I don't know what's going to happen, and is that an opportunity for some real grassroots action that's going to cross party lines?
Yeah, you're right. I think it's in the courts, or is going to the courts to sue. They're going to sue to stop that. The courts are going to be flooded. But yeah, you're right. That's an issue that affects everybody. And what I'm doing right now is just trying to follow it, see what's happening. And I know some people are protesting. I don't know if that's something we want to organize around or not. A lot of it depends on what all of you, want to do or are willing to do. And one of the things I wanted to mention, and I left it out, but in reading this Indivisible guidebook, they use the word fascism a lot. And I was listening to the story of the man that without any kind of following any kind of procedure, they ripped him out of his home, and he's now in Guatemala or El Salvador in a prison because supposedly he spoke out at Colombia, and they're trying to. All these things, these terrible things are happening without any due process. Right now, and I tell you, I'm really scared, quite frankly, for this country.
Well, just a little bit on the education thing. We had a forum on Project 2025, and if you remember, one of the speakers that we had was a lady from the Franklin County School District and system. And if I remember correctly, she said if Project 2025 was, done, what they had said, that would mean 6 positions would have to be eliminated there within the Frankfort County school system. So, that they don't have the money to make up that money for 6 positions. So that's going to affect kids and families.
I'm going to jump up again. One thing that the State Democratic Party is doing right now, which I think is really helpful every week, they've got a talking points email that they send out you can sign up for. And one of the things on it is a lot of county-specific information on impacts for things like that. Like a couple months ago they did one, or a month ago they did one on a it's gonna be a really interesting thing in a year or two when all this is actually in. So time might be great. Unfortunately for the people who have to put up with it, but.
Unless we can change the makeup of the Senate and the House in 2026. How likely is that?
Is anybody else?
Not discontent.
So what do y'all want to do?
Keep going to protests, go to town halls, contact your legislators and senators, join the ACLU, join the American Association of Retired Persons who are fighting for our Social Security. Make sure you belong to those. Every little membership adds up to pay their lawyers. There are lots of things we can do.
If you have privilege, use it.
I feel like I agree with what you said earlier about like I want to be in the room where these things are happening, or at least in the building if they're not going to give us a gallery or somewhere to sit. So I'm just wondering if there's an easier way to kind of know when those things are happening, because I feel like I only know about them once it's already happened. I don't know if there's an easier way to kind of track what's going on and where we can go as just people and where we're allowed to hang out. We're not allowed to hang out.
Kathy?
Yeah, for the interim session that will start in June, probably, I think, isn't that when
The calendar's not out yet, but it's
Okay.
always around the beginning of June.
Around the beginning of June is when they do the interim session. And during the interim session in Frankfurt, they only have committee meetings. They don't actually vote on any laws or anything. And, but there's a calendar that's available on the website, the LRC website, which I don't have that off the top of my head.
I think it's legislature.ky.gov.
Okay, legislature.ky.gov, and if you just look for the calendar, for the interim calendar, you'll be able to find out when the meetings are and which committees you might be interested in following. I'm the chapter leader for the state of Kentucky for Moms Demand Action, which has been mentioned here a couple of times, which I'm appreciative of, but that it's been called out. But we try to get to all of the education committee meetings, all the judiciary committee meetings, and all of the, what's the other one we were going to? Veterans, yes, the VMAP committee, during the summer. Those are the ones that we try to get to. And, you know, we sit there in our red shirts, and it's not, we're not sitting in the hallway with a sign, but they don't really let you take signs in. But they so far have not ever asked me to strip off my shirt. Yeah. So if you have
What
a
do you
shirt
think
that
about
has a message
the tool?
on it, you can go in like that.
Martha Henson.
No, I was just wondering out loud about a tool I just learned about. It's not a Kentucky for the Commonwealth thing, but although join us, it's just called 5 Calls, and you already know about it. It's so cool. We even have the it's well, I have the app now. It's just like the number 5 and calls. Is it .com or org? Org.
But yeah, you can make the app, and I put in my zip code, and it will tell me who all my legislators are, and you can pick out things that particularly piss you off, and they all even they do everything for you. They give you the phone number, and you can even read off a script if you want to about specifically protect free speech, for instance, stop unlawful ICE detainment of immigrants, and it gives the date. It was updated today, and it says call senators, House of Representatives, and you can read off, or just, you can just cheat so you brush it up, and it knows, because I gave it my zip code, my U.S. rep and my senators, and it gives you the phone number. You just push the button and you call. And I called Thomas Massey, and maybe there's no point in that. And it has like advice if you're leaving a voicemail versus a person. And I got an actual aide, an actual human answered, but then I got kind of sputtered because I was trying to look at my cheat note on my phone and talk on my phone. But it's just really cool. I like it when ACLU and lots of other, and KFTC and other organizations will do little things that kind of do a lot of the legwork for you and just makes it easier. And I sent about 10 emails today, and I feel like I did something. But it has to, when it piles up, it has to.
Yeah. I mean, when I said something about, that they're really not, you had to have the personal cell phone number. This was an opinion of a reporter. I do think we can't stop doing that. We have to still continue the calls and the letters and the postcards because we've got to let them know somebody's out there watching.
I mean, it worked for Santa Claus in Miracle on 34th Street, right?
That's right. I'm going to put a sheet up here. You can sign your name if you're interested in a local indivisible organization. Name and email, printed clearly.
Okay, well, if nobody has anything else. We have to be out of here before 8, but if anybody wants to take time to introduce yourselves to other people, we have a whole room full of like-minded people. Let's take advantage of that and keep it together. Margaret, if you have, we're going to try our best to do, to keep on our website updated with any kind of information about any of the organizations that we talked about, any upcoming events or anything like that. If you're on our email list, we will make sure that when something comes up that you're made aware of it. Yes, ma'am.
Our website is togetherfrankfort.org.
Okay. Did everybody hear that? It's togetherfrankfort.org. And
I want to thank the panelists for coming and taking the time to share information with us, which has been very valuable from each one of you. We do have little gifts for you, but they didn't come in today, so we will get them to you in appreciation for your participation.
And the plant board does record this. You will see these forums. All the forums have been put on their YouTube channel. Then we get a copy of it, and it should be linked on our website. So if you've missed any of them, or they eventually turn up once we get them on there. Thank you all so much for coming. We look forward to working with you.
Sign up if you want Indivisible.